Reporting to you live from the Cdff newsroom, my name's Ricky, commissioner of the Couple of Dudes Fantasy Football League, and thank you boys so much for tuning in. Today's a special day. Today's draft day for year 4 of the Cdff. Go ahead, give it up. But before we can look ahead to a new year, we first have to remember what happened last year. And year 3 was one hell of a year. We had the classic fantasy football arguments. We had trades, waiver wire battles, injuries, comeback wins, and absolutely embarrassing losses. We had teams that looked unbeatable suddenly collapse. We had teams that had absolutely no business winning somehow keep winning. We had the highest scoring team ever. We had the biggest blowout ever. We had playoff games decided by less than half a point, and when it was all over, we had our first ever back-to-back CDFF champion. But 12 teams took 12 very different paths to get there. So, before we officially begin year 4, let's take one final look back at year 3 of the CDFF. We begin with the Dewage Tank division. Paulie. Let's start with Paulie. Paulie didn't just have a good regular season, he had a historic one. He finished as the number 1 team and put together the highest scoring regular season we have ever seen in league history. And somehow, he managed to add another piece to what was already one of the best keeper groups in the league. He already had JSN and Zay Flowers, and now he's adding Drake May to that group. So, moving forward, this team's loaded. But there was one problem. After everything Paulie accomplished in that regular season, when the playoffs came around, he ran into me. And that historic season ended in the semifinals. Then there was Hunter. Early in the season, Hunter looked like the favorite. He held the number 1 seed throughout the early portion of the year. He had one of the strongest rosters in the league and hit on some fantastic draft day values. Javonte Williams, George Pickens, and somehow, for once in his life, CMC stayed healthy the entire season. Hunter had everything working for him. And then Hunter did what Hunter does. He started trading, including trading away George Pickens. You can make the argument that Hunter slowly traded himself out of a championship. He still finished with an excellent season, but the team that looked terrifying early on wasn't quite the same team by the time the playoffs arrived. Then we have X. X had a much different draft day experience. There were some questionable selections. Justin Jefferson, Joe Mixon. And X spent the entire season trying to reshape that roster, including trading for another disappointment in Saquon Barkley. But buried underneath all of that was potentially one of the better long-term values from the entire draft, Quentin Johnston in round 16. So, despite everything that went wrong, X, he might have walked away with a legitimate keeper for almost nothing. So, I think that deserves a round of applause. Congratulations, X. Finally, Dewey. Dewey decided there was apparently going to be a national running back shortage. His first 3 picks, running backs. The strategy actually looked pretty damn good initially. And more importantly, Dewey had the rest of the league in a fucking chokehold. While everybody else was desperately trying to find an RB2, Dewey was sitting on half the running backs in America. Unfortunately, having all those running backs doesn't help when the rest of your roster starts stinking. And eventually, his ship went down. Now, I've given you my analysis, but apparently our production budget this year allowed us to bring in some outside expertise. So, for an independent assessment of the Dewage Tank division, we turn things over to Wad. Wad, take it away.
Yo, Wad here with the Dewage Tank division. Hunter. Every trade you send is the same shit. You give up scraps and somehow expect a fucking superstar back. Who the hell do you think you are, man? Xavier, you couldn't even spell Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you Stu Nod? Paulie put up the most points in the league history just to choke to Ricky in the playoffs. Who runs it? Ricky? Who lost it? Paulie and Dewey. Pop shot a fan club? Makes perfect fucking sense. This guy spent the whole year riding everyone else's dick. At some point, get out of the fucking passenger seat, drive the car yourself, little bro. Back to you, Ricky. Be well.
Thanks so much, Wad. What a legend. Moving on, we come to a division particularly near and dear to my heart, the 3 balls 1 shaft division. Coming into year 3, this division looked absolutely stacked, and early on the 2 biggest favorites were Andrew and Luke. Both entered the season with elite keeper situations, strong rosters, and legitimate championship expectations. So, what happened? Well, we start with Luke. Luke's team was absolutely hammered by injuries. Marion Hampton, Puka Nacua. Felt like every time this guy started getting healthy, somebody else went down. And that's a shame because when his roster was actually functioning, it was dangerous. Luke still finished with over 1,700 points for, the 3rd highest total in the entire Cdff. He averaged over 125 points per game, and somehow finished 6-8 and still missed the playoffs. Very impressive, Luke. For the first half of the year, Jonathan Taylor looked like the kind of player who could single-handedly carry a team to the championship. But despite all that scoring, Luke just couldn't turn points into wins. Then we have Andrew. Another team that looked terrifying on paper, another elite keeper situation, and another roster that just never managed to put everything together. Andrew ultimately finished 7-7 with over 1,500 points for, which was enough to sneak into the playoffs and get first rounded by Jake. So, Andrew and Luke both entered the year looking like legitimate contenders, and instead, between the 2 of them, 0 playoff wins. 0. Not exactly how that was supposed to go, huh, boys? And then there was Drew. Drew took a very different approach on draft day. Risk, and lots of it. Players with injuries, players with off-field uncertainties, players with legal problems and felonies, and some being accused of beating their girlfriend. But throughout the season, Drew kept reshaping his roster, and one of the moves that ultimately changed his year was moving his stud keeper Tyler Warren for Trey McBride. And when the playoffs came around, McBride helped him get to exactly where he needed to go. Because Drew's semifinal win over Jake came down to a margin of 0.4 of a point. That's it. 0.4. And that was enough to send Drew back to the championship. But Drew wasn't done making history last year, because back in Week 7, Drew won by the largest margin in Cdff history. Drew scored 182 points, and his opponent scored 41. A 141-point victory, and that was the largest ass-kicking in Cdff history. And that opponent, it was me. It was me. But, anyways, Drew survived the season, survived the playoffs, and became the first back-to-back champion in Cdff history. 2 straight years with the belt, a second championship ring, and until somebody knocks him off Drew, he remains as the shaft. And finally, we arrive at Nico Day. We arrive at my team. Now, I get it. There were some allegations made throughout the season. People used some certain words, maybe fake or fluke. The most popular one was fraud. But personally, I prefer efficient. Because yes, technically, Nico Day did finish with 1,300 points for. And yes, technically, that was the fewest points scored by any team in the league. And yes, technically, I did only average 98 points per game. But, gentlemen, I would like to direct your attention to the only statistic that matters. And my friends, that's the scoreboard. Because when the season was on the line, Nico Day started running that fucking gauntlet. Andrew, win. Luke, win. Round 1 in playoffs, Hunter, the second highest scoring team in the entire league. 128-121, win. Finally, the semifinals. Paulie. Number 1 team, number 1 seed, first round bye. Highest scoring team in the entire history of the league. 152-136, Monday Night Football comeback, win. Andrew, Luke, Hunter, Paulie, one after another, and suddenly this so-called fraud was playing for the championship. Interesting. Very interesting. Now, some people may still have questions about the legitimacy of that run. Personally, I think the numbers speak for themselves. But apparently our producers felt it necessary to get an independent opinion on the situation. So, for more on the 3 balls 1 shaft division, we go live to our correspondent, White Claw Gabe. Gabe, take it away.
2 won the fucking lead again, motherfucker. Fuck yeah. 2 years in a fucking row, back to back. Drew the fucking shaft. Congrats, Drew. And Andrew, got first fucking round in the fucking playoffs. Gone, rest in peace, scat. What? More like Andrew was fucking scat. He was shit. Luke, what the fuck happened? Fuck. Andrew made the playoffs. Ricky made it. 2 fucking won it. And fuck. Luke, no playoffs. 3 balls, 1 shaft. Luke got the shaft. Fuck. And finally, Ricky, this motherfucker scored the fewest points in the entire fucking league. What the fuck is that? Everybody called him a fraud all year, motherfucker. Fuck yeah, a fucking fraud. Drew, the champ. Andrew, scat. Luke got the shaft. Ricky, a fucking fraud. Ooh, back to you, fraud, motherfucker. Piece of shit. Fuck.
White Claw gave ball right. Can you make this teleprompter go a little faster? I don't have all day here. Thanks. Okay, moving on. The Night Watch division. This was certainly a division. Statistically the weakest one in the league. And honestly, it's about all the analysis I'd like to give you right now. But we'll start with Jake. Jake actually had a strong year. He finished 8-6, made the playoffs, got hot late, and finished the regular season on a 5-game winning streak. He carried that momentum into the playoffs, only to lose to Drew in the semifinals by 0.4 of a point. Brutal. Then there's John, 4-10, another year near the bottom, which is certainly something for a guy who won the championship in year 1. Speed it up. But to John's credit, he did give us one masterpiece, Week 11. John beat the eventual champion Drew 132-52. So, even in a 4-10 season, John somehow found time to absolutely humiliate the guy who eventually went on to win the league. And finally, Loper. Loper finished exactly where Loper always finishes. 7-7. Again. 3 seasons in the Cdff, 3 seasons at 7-7. I don't even know how that's statistically possible anymore. But in the Night Watches division, 7-7 was enough to win it. So, yeah. That's the Night Watches division. For more analysis, we're going to Kurt Angle. Kurt, go nuts. Can I take 5? I'm going to go. Thanks.
Kurt Angle here with the Night's Watch division, the worst division in the league. First, Jake couldn't even make it to draft day. Jake, I've got one thing to say. You suck. John won the championship his first year and hasn't escaped the toilet bowl since. John, you won a championship once? I won a championship, and I did it with a broken freaking neck. And finally, Loper won this shitty division at 7-7. In fact, he's gone 7-7 3 years in a row. You're perfectly average, Loper, and you rely on waivers like Kurt Angle relies on milk. But in this division, average was good enough. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
Yeah, between the two of us, I don't like White Claw Gabe here next year. Yeah, that was terrible. It was unprofessional. Call me a fraud in front of everybody. I mean, how does that make me look? I'm the commissioner. I know. We're live? We're on right now. Like, right now we're on? Jesus Christ. I apologize for that. Apparently we're back and nobody told me. Kurt said something about milk. Okay. Anyways. Well, gentlemen, there you have it. Year 3 of CDFF. Another season officially in the books. 14 weeks of fantasy football. 3 divisions, 12 teams, countless trades, waiver claims, injuries, arguments, terrible decisions, and eventually, one back-to-back champion. Year 3 gave us just about everything you could ask for. But today isn't about living in the past, because today, gentlemen, Year 4 begins. And in just a few moments, we'll begin shaping what Year 4 is actually going to look like. We have 3 new division captains, John, Dewey, and Luke. And those 3 men will soon take the floor and draft the 3 new divisions that will carry us into Year 4. New divisions, new rivalries, a new draft, and eventually, a new champion. Hopefully somebody different. So with that, gentlemen, I think that officially closes the book on what we... Was that? We missed somebody. Who? Oh, okay. Yeah, he's easy to miss. I get it. Okay, do you want me to do that now? All right, put on the talk. Okay, all right. Okay, I'll do it right now. All right, get on the prompter. Yeah, go ahead. You're good. All right. I apologize again, gentlemen. This is unfortunate, but I've just been informed that there is, in fact, one final member of Year 3 that we have failed to recognize. And perhaps this is the most important one. Trey. Now, losing in fantasy football is difficult. Anybody can lose a game. Anybody can have a bad week. Anybody can have a bad season, but becoming the loser, it's different. That stays with you. This position has a history in our league. It has chewed people up and it has spit people out. Pause. There are people who have occupied this position who aren't even in the league anymore, and that's the kind of pressure we're talking about here, gentlemen. Statistically, Trey's journey to the bottom almost doesn't make sense. Trey finished 5-9, but he somehow scored over 1,700 fantasy points. He actually outscored most of the league, and on paper, this wasn't even supposed to be a bad football team. But somehow, week after week, Trey continued finding new and innovative ways to lose, until eventually, there was nowhere left to fall. And when everything came down to the final toilet bowl matchup, John put up 114 points, and what did Trey's team respond with? 70. 70 points. And with that, it was official. Trey had reached absolute rock bottom. And unlike some of the losers who had came before him, this one actually hurt. Because Trey isn't leaving Year 3 with just embarrassment. He's leaving it lost something of actual value. Jaden Daniels. So, congratulations, Trey. You didn't just lose fantasy football, but you lost a foundational piece in your franchise. But here's the thing. An award like this shouldn't be presented by me. And frankly, I'm just not qualified. Because to properly welcome somebody into this loser fraternity, you need someone who understands it. Someone who's been there. Someone who knows what it feels like to sit at the absolute bottom of the league. Before Trey, there was another. The man who helped establish what truly means to lose. And some call him the biggest loser. Some call him the worst team the league has ever seen. And some know him simply as Mommy's little superstar. He is the original. He is the OG loser. The man who walked so Trey could fall flat on his face. Gentlemen, presenting tonight's awards, give it up for the special guest, Logan Miles!
You do it. You play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working, that's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Now that ain't working, that's the way you do it. Let me tell you, damn guys ain't dumb. Maybe get a blister on your little finger. Maybe get a blister on your thumb. We got to install microwave ovens, custom kitchen deliveries. We got to move these refrigerators. We got to move these color TVs. Move on, move on. Refrigerator. learn to play them drums. Look at that mama, she got it sticking in the cameraman. We could have some. And he's up there. What's that? Hawaiian noises. He's banging on the bongos like a chimpanzee. Oh, that ain't working. That's the way you do it. Get your money for nothing, get your chicks for free. We got to install microwave oven, custom kitchen deliveries. We got to move these refrigerators. We got to move these color TVs. Listen here, now, that ain't working. That's the way you do it. You play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Money for nothing.